Today is Wednesday, September 28th. 29th, 2021, and it's about close to midnight. Today we had rain, so for today's daily English reading, we are going to read some interesting article where we could grind some cattails, roots, and make bread out of it. So let's delve into the context. But as always, let's focus on the key expressions and some interesting articles, some interesting words, sentences, phrases that we could memorize for future knowledge when we have to use English. I've never read this article before, so there could be some holes. This is not a infringement on the copyright by askpaper.com, but this is part of daily English reading for study purpose. Ask a prepper how to home all articles. So that's cattails. That's 청포도 in Korea, or 청포 in Korea. It looks like a corn dog or hot dog, but actually that's the seedlings, I think. We are going to make a bread out of the roots. See? We ground the roots and make a bread. How to grind? What is going on? How to grind cattails and make bread by Rebecca P. September 28th, 2021. So this is only like a 1 day old, very fresh article. I just encountered the title, this article, on my Facebook page, but I've never read this article before. I just kept it. I've just posted it in my timeline. It's hidden. You might think that marshes and other wetlands are only good source of food when it comes to finding frogs, ducks, and other animals to eat in a survival situation. However, there are plenty of plants that can be harvested from such an environment too. One of the most nutritious and widely available, cattails. Although you can eat the roots, shoots, good expression, you can eat the roots, shoots, and seed heads of these plants raw or cooked, fried like potatoes, or even in dishes like stir fries. One of the most popular ways to eat cattails is by grinding them down and making bread. Roots, shoots, raw or cooked, stir fries. Related delicious recipes using cattails. The supermarket of the swamp. That's good expression. The supermarket of the swamp. Cattail bread is not only delicious, but it's a perfect item to have on hand in a survival situation. Here's how to make it. How to harvest cattails. You can harvest cattails at any time during the year, even the dead of winter. Dead serious. Even the dead of winter. And every single part of the plant is edible. Make sure you correctly identify a cattail. It is easiest to identify in the late season, as it will look much like a corn dog. See, hot dog or corn dog. Yeah, corn dog. I don't know, they look good. It attracts our attention. To us, they look like a nice food. Maybe spindles. Cattails are very starchy. Oh, really? Very starchy. Yeah, starch or starchy. So they are perfect for making bread. The entire plant can be eaten, and many parts can be used for bread. But the most common part of the cattail used for bread making is the rhizome. This is the underground stem or root, rhizome. Rhizome is the underground root or stem. Rhizome, this is the underground stem or root. It contains lots of carbohydrates and is extremely starchy. Extremely starchy. You can gather rhizomes at any time of the year. That's good. But you may have the best luck in harvesting cattails for bread making if you do so in the fall. That's true in Korea. Wait until the plants have died back in late fall, since by this point the plants will have stored lots of starch and energy in their roots. That's correct. Probably the plants will have stored lots of starch and energy in their roots, rhizomes. You will need to harvest quite a few cattail roots in order to make a decent amount of flour. So don't be stingy when it comes to gathering. Stingy. Yeah, don't be stingy, okay? It requires a lot of cattails. Yeah, actually, be mindful of the location from which you are harvesting the cattails too. Since rhizomes often accumulate metals, that's bad, and other pollutants with ease, and you don't want to introduce these to your food supply. Definitely. I would just die rather than eat metals, man. Related. How to pickle cattails for long-term preservation. To dig the rhizomes, wade out in the water to where the cattails start making way for open water. Using your hand, follow the stem of the plant a few inches down the mud. To dig the rhizomes, wade into the water, or wade out in the water to where the cattails start making way for open water. Using your hand, follow the stem of the plant a few inches down into the mud. You should feel a spongy, rope-like stem that leads away from the plant in a horizontal direction. Tug gently. If it is connected to another cattail, you will see the second plant wiggle, 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 wiggle. You can cut both ends and pull the rhizome out of the water. The rhizome itself is not a very appealing or tasty-looking item. It looks much like an octopus tentacle and has tiny thread-like roots all over the place. It looks much like an octopus tentacle. Yeah, octopus tentacle. Yeah, I know the word, but I want to memorize the word one more time, again, so as not to forget it when I become old. It looks much like an octopus tentacle and has tiny thread-like roots all over the place. You will need to remove the outer layer of the rhizome before you grind the root for bread. Well, I don't know if I wash the outer skin thoroughly. I'll just go ahead and grind them for bread since it's inedible, really, and tough tasting. Inedible. That's good expression. Inedible. 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 And tough tasting. Tough tasting. Okay? Tough tasting, not testing. Tough tasting, inedible. That's the rhizomes. And we have very tiny roots. They look like a mustache. How to make bread with the cattail flour, step by step. 1. Clean the cattails. The first thing you should do is clean the cattail rhizomes. If you were involved firsthand in the harvesting of the rhizomes, you probably know how disgusting and mucky the water was before you harvested. It's important that you get all of that muck off your rhizomes before you begin processing them. Muck. Basak. You go mucky. Muck. Go muck. Soak them for an hour in warm water. That's a good idea. Then scrub. Scrub. Rinse. And repeat. Soak them for an hour in warm water. Then scrub and rinse and repeat. Be as thorough as possible in your cleaning, but if you can't get all the dirt off, don't stress. You are going to peel the rhizomes in the next step. Don't stress. Muck. Related. How to make your knife as sharp as the devil himself. It's just like peeling carrots. Be sure to get all the dirty pieces off and peel thoroughly to reveal the starchy center. 3. Break the rhizomes. Now you need to extract the starch from the rhizomes. There are a couple of ways you can do this. The easiest way is to just break the rhizome into a large bowl of water. Work the rhizome into the water until the water turns milky white as the starch is removed. Milky white. Let it settle for about 3 hours. You will return to find the starch separated from the water at the bottom. You can then pour off the water and leave the starch to dry outside. You can pour off the water. That's good expression. Like a decant. Pour off the water. Pour soju. Pour wine. But pour off the water. Rinse, stir fry, scrub. Another way you can remove the starch is to scrape the rhizome with a sharp knife, working from the bottom up as you draw the starch out and collect it on the knife blade. You can then leave the starch out to dry or stir it into water just as you would in the other method. You will wait for it to dry for a few hours after removing it from the water. 4. Grind the rhizomes into flour. Now you can grind the rhizomes into flour. Use a mortar and pestle or a wheat grinder to get the best, finest consistency. Mortar and pestle. A mortar is a stone, a bowl-shaped, small container. It's concave, it's caved in, and you grind anything in it by hitting them with the pestles. So mortar and pestles. Mortar brick. Okay? Mortar and brick house. Mortar and brick shop. shop, but mortar and pestle. Okay, mortar and pestle. Mortar and pestle. To get the best, finest consistency. Best and finest. So that's 5. Make sure. Ooh, I agree. Okay. Ooh. Make sure, make and bake. Wait, how can I get the context? 5. Make and bake your bread dough. This is the most enjoyable part of the entire Cattail bread making process. Combine the following ingredients to make your bread. You can, of course, substitute the butter for whatever kind of grease you have on hand. Lard is a common substitution. Lard. In Korea, when you eat jjajangmyeon, there is a lot of lard in it. Very stocky, very thick, very greasy, but you like it. Jjajangmyeon is called a black noodle. The sauce is made from bean and bean paste and the lard. So the black sauce is very sticky, starchy maybe, and greasy. It has a lot of significantly large lard. Lard is the grease or fat from pigs. A lard is a common substitution. Similarly, you can blend together whatever kinds of flour you have to make a more delicious loaf of bread. A loaf of bread. If you don't have wheat or acorn flour, feel free to use white flour or additional amounts of cattail flour. This recipe is written as such to accommodate for the fact that you won't get a lot of flour out of your rhizomes. It takes quite a few rhizomes to make a cup of flour. Cornmeal is another substitution you can make. To make the recipe, just combine the ingredients below and knead. When you prepare pizza dough, you just pour water into the flour, then you stir it, you mix it thoroughly to make it sticky and well mixed, and there shouldn't be any unmixed flour inside the dough. To do that, you need to punch your fist into the dough. You just roll some thick cylindrical bar over the dough, and that is called knead. Okay, do you need this? No, that's not the same knead. Knead, K-N-E-A-D. Allow the mixture to rise for 3 hours before baking at 400 degrees for around 20 minutes, or skip the rising process altogether and just cook the bread on hot coals over the fire, the most common choice in a survival situation. If you cook the bread like this, it should only take about 10 minutes total, but be sure to flip about halfway through. Yeah, it looks like baking bread over a charcoal in a Western, country style, out in the desert style, like what they call a Western a pioneering era. The ingredients are as follows. 1 cup cattail flour, 3 cups wheat or acorn flour, or a combination of the two, wheat or acorn flour. So obviously Americans eat acorn flour. Koreans do. We call it muk. 도토리 muk. 상수리 muk. 2¼ tablespoon of dry yeast, 2 tablespoons sugar, 1½ tablespoon salt, 2 tablespoon butter, 1 cup milky white, ½ cup water. Storing leftover flour and bread. You can store your cattail flour just like you would any other kind of flour. Keep it in a sealed container away from moisture, heat, and sunlight. Yeah, keep it in a sealed container. Okay, sealed container. Basically, we use pincers and we just roll over the top part of the vinyl bag and pinch it with a pincer and store it in the refrigerator. So we need to keep it in a sealed container. If you're concerned that it will go bad before you get the chance to use it, you can freeze it too. Although this is necessary in most cases, as it should last several months. The bread will go back quickly. Go back? Usually in a few days, maybe go bad. But feel free to whip up a few batches and stash the extra loaves in the freezer. Stash the extra loaves in the freezer. Stash the extra loaves in the freezer. You shouldn't notice any difference in taste, quality, or texture when you store it this way. Did you know that you can also make cattail flour out of other parts of the plant, like the pollen? Really? Pollen, so that's brownish corn dog like part of the plant is called pollen? This is trickier to make since you will need lots of pollen in order to make a batch of flour. Yeah, lots of pollen, not lots of pollens. It's just singular, plural, same thing. It's more like a mass, a noun, not a uncountable noun, not countable noun. So since you will need lots of pollen in order to make a batch of flour, however, it will allow you to get more use out of the entire plant, something that's super valuable in a survival or self-sufficiency situation. Grab your waders and head out to the swamp. Grab your waders. Yeah, waders. What are waders? It's not a singular noun, but plural. It's more like shoes plus overall, but it's a waterproof. So basically, it's a plastic or vinyl or Gore-Tex type. They look like a trousers with rain boots all together rolled into one. So the top of the waders maybe stop at your chest level, and it has the belts over your shoulders. So it's more like waders are for like shrimp farmers or cattail harvesters or someone who or gold penning people, gold penners. You need to wade out into the water to pen for golds. So you wear waders. Grab your waders and head out to the swamp. Head out to the swamp. It's the perfect time of year to start harvesting cattails. You have lots of bread to make. I've never tried to making bread out of cattails, but I kind of tempted because in Korea there are many cattails in the swamps or in the small gullies or small ditches between the rice paddies. Or if you go to Gochang up, there's a small fortress which was used to defend the area from the marauding Japanese Japs back in the 16th century. And in front of the fortress, there is some narrow but long stream, and at the center of the streamline, there are a lot of cattails. So that's how I vividly remember the location. So before we close this article, let's go over the expressions that I memorized while reading. So the dead serious, or even the dead of winter, even the dead of the winter, even the dead of the winter. Rinse, scrub, rinse and repeat, scrub. Need, starchy, starch, wade out or head out to the water. Waders, rhizome, the stem and roots, underground stem and roots, rhizome. Need, bread, flour, acorn flour, white, milky white, skin. Keep it in the sealed container. Keep it in the sealed container. Keep it in the sealed container. Mortar and pestle. Mortar and pestle. Pollen. Lots of pollen. Lots of pollen. Corn dog. Corn dog. Acorn. Starch. Stir fry. Stir fry. Loaf of bread. Loaves of bread. Loaf. One loaf of bread. Tablespoon. TBSP. Tablespoon. TBSP. Rinse. Muck. Muck. Milky white. Tough tasting. Tough tasting. Inedible. Inedible. Tough tasting. Tough taste. Octopus tentacle. Octopus tentacle. Octopus tentacle. Lard. 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 Stash. Stash. Waders. Mortar and pestle. Knife blade. Pour off the water. Pour off the water. Pour off the water. Stingy. Stingy. Don't stress. Don't stress. Don't stress. Don't stress. Don't stress. Don't stress. Stingy. Stingy. The dead. Thanks for listening. That's it for today's daily English reading. So this article was from Ask Prepper, and the author was Rebecca P. Thanks, Rebecca, for my daily prayer or daily English reading.